A few weeks ago, I made a video of the Battle Los Angeles video game, and in those comments I got a lot of requests to cover Battleship, the movie, the game. This game only released on Xbox 360 and PS3, meaning I couldn't find it on some abandonware website, so I coughed up the $10 or however much it was to get a case of the game that has seen better days. Thankfully, this disc worked in my Xbox 360 perfectly fine. So this raises the question, how bad is Battleship, the movie, the game, actually? Hey, Jarek here, and this game is a first-person shooter. You probably figured that out from the thumbnail, but honestly, I don't know why they decided to make Battleship into a first-person shooter. Well, no, actually I do. It's because that's what was popular at the time and you need that money. Seriously, even if you just look at the box, only one of the pictures actually shows a screenshot from first person holding a gun. Despite this being most of what you're going to be doing in the game, they seem to want to push the Battleship thing more. You can tell this is just some higher up executive going, well, Call of Duty's really popular, so just do that. That's popular, that's trending, kids will love it. Before I continue talking about this rather bland and boring game, let's talk about a fun game. Slingers. Slingers is a 1v1 action game available for free on iOS and Android. Now, even though it's a 1v1 action game, it's not highly competitive or really stressful. It's super easy to understand, it's very easy to pick up, games go by quick, and it is really fun. Since the games go by quick, it's the type of fun that can be pretty addictive. Before you know it, 30 minutes had passed. You control a certain amount of characters and take turns. Each turn, you have a certain amount of points to use your combination of over 50 different collectible weapons. The goal is simple. Simply knock out your opponent, knock them off the stage. Every single stage is going to be different. Slingers also has an active Discord community, so you can join that and hang out with other people that also play the game if you wish. If you want to try this out, I guarantee you it's going to be more interesting than Battleship. You can check that link down below in the video information. Huge thanks to Slingers for sponsoring this video. Now let's go back to Battleship. Anyway, let's just jump into this and talk about the graphics. To be honest, it doesn't look awful. It just looks like every other modern military shooter on the Xbox 360. And that's going to be a common theme. This game is painfully bland. Textures aren't necessarily bad, animations aren't necessarily bad, firing effects aren't necessarily bad. Like, as a whole, it's pretty much the status quo. It even does that thing where the whole screen gets tinted a different color to show that the game is being serious. We're now in battle. Although, while this looks like your generic first-person shooter, you've probably already noticed the biggest problem with the graphics. Less so that there's a problem with the graphics, and more so that the performance is terrible. I can only speak from the Xbox 360 side, not the PS3 side, but the frame rate was supposed to stay at 30, and it rarely ever did. Oddly enough, the worst offender are the cutscenes. They run awful. So yeah, performance could use a lot of work. I would expect this from an Xbox 360 game, but in this case, there's no real reason for that. Like, yeah, I know why Halo 4 dropped frames every once in a while. They were really trying to push everything they could get out of this console. For a game that looks like this to have a bad frame rate is just not excusable. I will say at least the FOV wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't what I would prefer, but it also wasn't super annoying unless I was trying to jump over something. So yeah, graphics are passable, but it just doesn't run well. I can't quite say the same for the controls. They're pretty awkward. I've definitely played worse, and this game has a pretty generous amount of aim assist, which helps, but even so, sometimes the aim assist would be too sticky and then make it more difficult to aim. The biggest problem is that ADS speed feels like it's only 30 to 40% of hipfire speed, and there's no smooth transition from hipfire to aiming down sights like in, say, Call of Duty. So yeah, controls aren't the worst thing, but they're definitely bad. Also, this happened twice? How the... Failed to unlock... What? What? What does that mean? What the... I'm so confused. What was this supposed to mean there? Because I clearly got it. I know my 360 isn't plugged into the internet, but I've never had this happen before in any other game. Also, it only happened with 2 achievements and not the others. I have no idea what's going on here. So we move on to the story. There is none. Wow, that's the whole game. Double Helix games, that makes a lot of sense. That's just the final boss. It just ends. There was never any story to this. There was never any characters. There was never any reason to really fight them. They just are there. The cutscenes are like, here's what you gotta do. You gotta blow up this thing. It's blocking our ships, so gotta get rid of that. You gotta help your ships over here. And there you go. There's your story. Like, there's no story here, which is rather odd considering it's based off of a movie. How is that possible? Every single mission starts with a briefing, and this briefing basically says, go blow up this so our ships can do this. Here's a place of interest, do this so our ships can do that. This really just is an explanation of what you're going to be doing in that level. It's not a story. There's no characters you meet to get attached to. There's no cutscenes that show characters doing anything. Like, I'm not exaggerating. There is no story at all here. And I just want to reiterate how impressive that is, because this game was based off a movie and there's no characters or story. Like, I don't even know how you do that. The whole thing basically boils down to the game starts and whoops, look, there are aliens. Gotta go kill the aliens and stop them. All right, game's over now. Like, quite literally, that's the whole story. Again, there's no characters, there's no subplots. It's impressive. The closest thing you get to a twist is a giant carrier comes out of the water, and this serves as a final boss, and I'll talk about that. So now we move to the gameplay, and in a similar way, I just don't have much to say. It is so generic. You have played this game before. With that said, it's not necessarily bad, it's just boring. The game starts to the closest thing I can refer to as a tutorial in this game, and by that I mean the game teaches you to go over to some things and hold down the X button.
There's the expert now. Dispose of this thing, would you?
I'm an expert. You know how I'm expert? I can hold X. You know, an expert. Don't be mad at me. Then it teaches you how to control the battleships, which is the only unique thing about this game. Unfortunately, this is just like a side thing going on, and that's sort of the whole point of the game. You press left bumper to pull out a tablet. You press A on the ship and A to where you want to move it. If you want that ship to attack something, you press A, and then select the ship you want it to attack. And as this game is teaching you that, oh, whoops, there are aliens. Oh, we're playing Haze now? You just casually pull out a gun. It's okay, everything is fine. Yeah, those are aliens. I didn't even realize it when I first started playing. They just look like a mix between the Crisis suit and the Haze suit. Maybe some time shift in there as well. I don't know, they just look like people wearing suits. They don't look like aliens. Perhaps I would have realized they were aliens if I got a chance to see through their helmet first.
Adams, enemy dead ahead.
Wait a minute, I've seen that face before. Editor's note after I finished editing this video and I'm browsing YouTube. As it turns out, I'm not the first person to notice this, nor am I the first person to make this joke. Coincidences do happen. Instead, I'll show the original Twitch clip where we found out that this looks just like Craig.
Reagan.
In all fairness, this game is more polished than Battlefield 2042. The aliens are Craig. Man, now that you said that. Anyway, as you're killing aliens, they drop these big icons that you can pick up, and these are basically upgrades for your battleships. Now when you open up your battleship tablet, you can press Y on your battleships and upgrade them. This does very basic things like giving them more health, giving them stronger rockets, giving them torpedoes, and then there's one upgrade that actually does something different. It lets you pilot these boats. Pilot? Are you a pilot? Is that how that works? I don't know the terminology. You're not actually doing that anyway because it drives on its own. You don't even need to aim. All you're doing here is pressing the shoulder button and the triggers. Basically, you upgrade your ships enough to where you can just destroy anything once you get an upgrade that lets you pilot these battleships or submarines if you've upgraded that. And that's the whole battleship gameplay. Yep, that whole side is just tacked on. You know, the thing that's on the front of the box? That whole thing, you're not doing this. You're playing a first-person shooter. That's popular at the time. Like, I really can't stress how much of a generic first-person shooter this is. There's a nav point on the screen. You go to the nav point, you hold down X on something, or you shoot a bunch of enemies, and that's all you're doing. The smaller details are fine, honestly. I can't say the gunplay isn't terrible. Well, the M9 feels pretty terrible. It's hard to see what the hell you're shooting at, or if you're even hitting them. But other than that, the other guns actually feel okay. The M4 feels like a bog standard M4, but I mean, it works. And the alien weapons are surprisingly pretty cool. You get this alien machine gun that holds 200 rounds and overheats. That's a neat animation to make it cool down. It also gets more accurate as you hold the trigger down longer, and this was well before Battlefield 1 did that. The other alien weapon is a railgun you can charge up, which is basically a sniper rocket launcher, which is more interesting than just giving me a regular old rocket launcher. So yeah, I can't really complain about these designs. They are pretty cool. And the last weapon is a shotgun that is actually one of the more fun shotguns I've ever used. This got me off guard. The other weapons had some unique designs, but overall felt you know, fine, not great, not bad, but this shotgun is just a good shotgun. That's twice now a notoriously bad game has had a good shotgun in it. The other time being Resistance Burning Skies on the Vita. Although part of this definitely has to do with the fact that back then when you killed an enemy, they would just kind of ragdoll or get launched instead of doing these animations that are pre-made and it just doesn't feel as satisfying. Bring back mid to late 2000s ragdoll, please.
I'm recording this. Oh my god!
The enemies themselves, well, there's not really too many of them. You get that base alien which just kind of shoots you. It's, you know, your generic first-person shooter spunk gargle wee enemy. But there are two other versions of this enemy. You get one that just kind of sits off in the distance with that railgun, and these can be a total pain. If you have a railgun, they will constantly try to dodge you shooting them. And then there are the other big enemies that run straight at you and try to hit you. You usually have a shotgun which does stun them, so that makes them a little less of a threat. Oh. Oh no, whatever shall I do with this shotgun? They also have these rolly mine things, but other than that, that's all the enemies you're going to be fighting. There is one more interaction that the battleship can have with the player on land. You can call in ordnance. Although the ship has to be in a precise location for this to work. So most of the time it's just not something you're going to do. To make things more annoying, occasionally you have to blow up a blockade by doing this. It's generally not made clear until you look at the map, so every time this happened I wandered around forever before figuring it out. On top of this, if you've killed all the enemies in the area and an opposing battleship is in that spot where you need your battleship to be, you're gonna have to wait until your battleship kills it. Because for whatever reason, you have to be in that one specific tile for you to be able to put out a bombardment. Like, why? Why does it have to be that one? I'm closer on the other one. And then you got the final boss, which is just this big carrier. The way this boss plays out is that most of the time you are going to be on land just shooting at enemies that constantly respawn while your ship's out in the sea, eventually take down its shields, and then you can pilot one of them to attack it. And when you do pilot one of them, it gets hilariously small for some reason. Why is it so small now? Why is my battleship suddenly bigger? Anyway, yeah, that's all there is to this final boss. Just the same thing you've done for the rest of the game, but now it takes slightly longer and you have to wait and do tower defense. Ugh. No part of this game is offensive. It's not offensively frustrating. It's not offensively bad, but it's also not good. It's just offensively bland. The only truly bad thing about this game is the performance. At one point, it froze my entire 360.
Has determined the alien's launch sequence for the turret there, but we need you to deliver the numbers.
Did the game crash? I think the game crashed. That or my 360 froze? Yeah, I think my 360 froze. Wow. Amazing. I can't even hold the button down. Yeah, I just straight up crashed my 360. All right, hold up. Let me restart it. Oh, you know your game's starting off right when you have Comcast. Before you get to the main menu, you see Comcast's name. Oh, there's also that other thing, you know, the thing where it's only 3 hours long. It's actually probably shorter than that. It was 3 hours as it was streaming and pausing constantly to talk to my chat about things more interesting than the game I was playing. You know, like how out of the big 3 shooters that came out this year, Battlefield 2042, Halo Infinite, and Call of Duty Vanguard, somehow 6 months later, Vanguard has the best multiplayer? How in the world did this happen? Before you get angry at me, actually think about that. Battlefield 2042 is totally out of that running, and Halo Infinite is just a mess right now. What a crazy world that Vanguard actually somehow ended up winning the multiplayer side. Definitely not the single player. I stand by my statement that Halo Infinite single player is still really fun. I do really enjoy it. Although the co-op got pushed back again. And now 343 is talking about taking out the tank gun from the campaign. Why? Why are you taking out fun? Leave it alone! Anyway, I'm getting off topic, and that just serves my point that this game is really boring, and I'd rather talk about games that are more interesting. And that really does sum up the entire game. You've already played this before. It's a modern military shooter, but Battleship, the movie, the game, so get excited. I know you're excited about that one. I'd like to give a huge thanks to people that joined me while I was streaming this game. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. We talked about a lot of stuff over there that wasn't the game I was playing. If you subscribe to my Twitch, you were also able to see my videos at minimum 1 week ahead of time. Also, thank you Boom Slingers for sponsoring this video. Check that link down below in the video information. And of course, thank you for watching.